Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of our webinar today. It's focused on understanding how to finance your business. To start, I'm Lauren Cartwright. I'm the Business Retention and Expansion Program Manager for the Sonoma County Economic Development Board. Our agency is located within the County of Sonoma, and our mission is to provide resources for businesses as they start, grow, and expand in Sonoma County. Whether it's identifying financial solutions, market research, or workforce development, our team is here to support you in your business at any and all stages. Today, we're happy to be joined by Jason Ean of Redwood Credit Union and TT Akile of Working Solutions CDFI to help us navigate the business loan application process and what it's like getting access to capital in post-ish pandemic times. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a few moments, but before we get started, I want to run through today's program just briefly. Today, we're kind of looking to have a little bit of a casual conversation around loan financing, where you can answer your questions in real time, or you can save them for the end. Feel free to list questions in the Q&A function. At any point, we'll be sure to answer them. In the instance that we don't get everything answered, we'll be sure to follow up with you as well. I'll put my email in the chat so you can also email any questions after the presentation if they come up, or if we weren't able to get them answered during today's presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Jason, why don't you kick it off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization, and then TT will go to you.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks to the EDB for having us here today. Post-ish, I like it. I don't know if I've heard that much yet. That's great. I'm Jason Ean. I'm the SBA and Commercial Lending Manager here at Redwood Credit Union. I think a lot of folks probably know of us. I'll tell a tiny bit about myself and maybe some fun facts about the organization. I was born in Southern Oregon and raised in Southern California, but I've been here for longer than anywhere else now. 24 years in Sonoma County, all in SBA and commercial lending, and last 14 years here at Redwood Credit Union. Live here in Santa Rosa, wife and two boys who go to Santa Rosa High. Go Panthers. Redwood Credit Union is actually a not-for-profit financial cooperative. It's kind of the main difference between a credit union and a bank. We're a little bit larger though for a typical credit union, where we have over $7 billion in assets and over $9.5 billion under management. To give you some idea of scope, we're the second largest financial institution based in Sonoma County, 8th largest credit union in California. We serve approximately 400,000 members out of our 19 branches that go as far south as San Francisco and throughout the North Bay. Yeah, that's a little bit about Redwood Credit Union. Thanks, Lauren.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. TT, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Working Solutions CDFI?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren. And it's a pleasure being here. I am TT Akile, Director of Lending and Consulting with Working Solutions. And with Working Solutions, we are a micro lender. We also are CDFI. We're a nonprofit CDFI. We provide capital and consulting to small businesses. And we also are there to really help them in terms of navigation of resources. And we've been in great partnership with Sonoma EDB for many years, and have a strong footprint in the community just because of our network and working with the ecosystem from the SBDC network to the Sonoma EDB, they've been great at giving us loan capital that we've been able to deploy in the community, and as well as even supporting with some grant deployment. Overall, in my role, I've had my years in banking, worked with several different banks in the past before joining Working Solutions. So I have a strong understanding of lending and small business consulting. Also was a part of the SBDC network in the past life as well. And so very much passionate about the Bay Area and business development and growth of businesses and access for them to capital. It's always a privilege and joy to be here. And Redwood Credit Union is one of our greatest referral partners as far as banking is concerned. So it's a thrill to just kind of join on this platform to share what we can do better for businesses. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Titi. And one question off the bat that I have, you talk about the different types of organizations that you have. If you're a small business owner, I guess, and Jason or Titi, whoever wants to take this away, how would you decide what you want, like what route you want to go, like what organization you're going to go to try and find lending? Are you sending out applications to every different institution? Or are you trying to go with the bank you normally bank with, or how would you try to determine who you'd partner with?
Do you want me to start there, Titi?
Yeah, give it a shot. I'll speak off of whatever you land.
Well, I think just coming from community banking, my whole career, my recommendation would be to speak with the financial institution where you do your everyday banking. They would probably be best to start with and try and assist. And from there, I guess, if for some reason that wasn't to work out, they might be able to provide you with other options. Obviously, Redwood Credit Union, we're a community-based organization, always here to help. But I'd start with your financial institution and possibly your financial advisor if for some reason your financial institution can help.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely lean on that for all the existing businesses as the first place to go with your financial institution. But if you're kind of at that launch pad stage and you're starting, I would also add that you go into your local small business development center would be a great place to also get some navigation support on where, if you're looking for startup capital, what will be the best fit. And it just kind of narrows down the options depending on the industry and kind of, different circumstances that you might be facing.
Great. And the Sonoma County Small Business Development Center is a really great partner for businesses of any size, any stage. So if you want help building that business plan, or if you need help just figuring out what the next stage of your business is, whether it's an expansion or a whole new industry, they're a really great partner to work with. I mean, we can't say enough about them. If it's restaurant or it's wellness or outdoor recreation, anything like that. They have a really great team of advisors available for one-on-one advising and counseling. They offer a lot of no and low cost workshops as well. So that's a really great partner. I just put their information in the chat as well for anyone to refer to. So if we're looking at, I guess, the finance world, and I want to start a food cart, or I want to have like a mobile food vendor truck, what are the things that you look for when I was applying for funding? Can I just come to you with my idea and say, hey, here's what I want to do. How can you help me get access to capital to do that? Or is there a certain process you have to go through?
Yeah.
TT, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can jump in that because we do a lot of startups. So about 60% of our portfolio are startups. We kind of have this tagline, Working Solutions, that we're first to believe, and really taking that dive in where it's, it's much more difficult. Different organizations have different frameworks. But what we look for at that point first is like experience. Do you have experience in that first if you're starting something new? If you have experience in that industry, and experience that kind of shows that and you can have a little bit of prediction of how things could work and understanding of the risk associated and already make plans around it. And then we also want to look at your ability to also build, over time, like the phases of the business. What's the plan around it? Do you have a plan for the business? And how strong, how realistic is the plan, the business plan and the projections? Not so much of the volume of how many pages, because things we're getting much more concise with our approach. So we don't need a 30-page plan, but we want something that's concise, that gives us just a roadmap of how things will be done and how you address it. operationally, what's the market, what's the demand for this product. The more you can paint that picture and the more you can also articulate it in words when you have a conversation, the better we can feel comfortable that this is something that's going the right path. And then we'll also look at the, character. And one of the best ways to determine character is really by the credit history. And I'm really focusing on what specifically credit history, not so much of score. We want to know the story behind it. We want to know tell us, that's one of the difference with community banking versus other traditional sources. Like we are willing to kind of make some allowances when there have been life incidents that's happened, or people always sometimes have been times where of ignorance, and now they're in that recovery place where they know better. So rather than penalizing them, holding them back, we want to say, okay, how long ago was that, and what are the steps, proactive steps that they've taken? And then last is just income. Would you have sufficient resources to be able to make this payment without it becoming a burden on you? And if we see that it's going to be a burden, then we'll give you feedback that this might not be the right time, or maybe we should lower the amount and reduce into a phased approach, and help you move it forward.
That's kind of interesting, if you don't mind, Jason, before we segue to you, like you bring that up, because one question I had written down was, you look at how businesses were functioning before the pandemic and now during the pandemic, and now this end of pandemic era, or just transitioning away. And I think it's kind of intimidating for folks to be like, well, I was so successful, like 2018 numbers were great, 2019 numbers were great, but then 2021, and here we are 3 months into 2022, they've been a little more challenging. So have you heard anything about, or just any advice for businesses who are looking to try and expand, even though the last few years, maybe haven't been that great, aside from painting that picture? Like when they apply for a loan, is there anything that they can do to try to better their ability to get the loan? Or whether it's trying to have a different, you said you don't need a 30-page business plan, but do they need to have maybe a more detailed budget about what they want to expand, or just anything like advice you could give for folks who are trying to show the best of three worlds we've had the last 3 years, I guess you could say?
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head with what a business plan, or in this case, like an expansion plan, should address. And it is those, besides addressing your business, obviously there's these conditions now that have kind of changed the way everyone looks at things. We're talking about emerging out of the pandemic. It's almost unfortunate, but we've become such a resilient North Bay, in that before that and during that, we've had incredible natural disasters, wildfires, floods. So sadly, we've gotten sort of used to that. But to that end, how you would deal with that, maybe further pandemic issues, a wildfire, how would your business perform? How has it performed in the past? If you're still here standing, obviously there's some staying power. How did that happen? And if your numbers aren't completely sort of turned, if they haven't turned a corner yet, since the onset of the pandemic, show us how you're going to emerge. And that again becomes like a business plan. You're effectively showing us how moving forward you're going to succeed. And for business planning help, I agree, couldn't recommend the SBDC more. There's obviously templates that you can use for your own plan, and they won't typically write it for you, but having that sort of fully baked plan on paper for somebody to help you with is crucial. And I think Lauren's first question was, should I just come to my financial institution with just an idea? Probably not. You want to lend credibility to your idea by way of a plan and financial projection. So that's kind of the starting place.
Thank you for that, Jason. I just think, as small business owners have been trying to balance payroll, and they're trying to balance COVID guidelines, and they're trying to just make sure they can stay afloat through this like really hard phase, and try to get access to all these different grant programs. What's the most approachable way to still support their growth like long term? Because we will get through this. It's just the ebbs and flows of COVID, and just things are kind of up and they're down, and we're just trying to do the best we can. So that is great. If you had to give, any key advice or any suggestions to folks who are looking to, get into a new industry, or just trying to start their own business, like what would you say, like maybe top 2 things for advice for folks so they can better prepare? Like maybe they're not ready to, maybe they're just in the infant stages of like research and development. They're not ready to kind of apply for that financing yet. What can they do? Like it's 5 years of prep, maybe like 5 years from now, they want to apply for that loan and make it happen. But as they start to prepare and, think about what they want to do, aside from partnering with SBDC for more information, like what can they do just personally to try and make that process easier too?
Maybe I can touch a little bit of this. I think that depending on the industry, what they're trying to go into, I think figuring out like if there's been like credit like issues, one area of that could be a challenge for people, for other institutions to kind of be able to take a leap of faith with them. Start working on cleaning up any mess. I think if you have a 5-year runway and you're ready to hit, like you can really be at a very strong position. And then, so that's one is credit, like, just really adjusting your credit so you can get the best rates and the best product that's out there. And also looking at, revenue standpoint personally, like if there's some asset building and some things that you can do to build your net worth, to grow and, save up, or just diversify kind of things that could show that you are strong personally with assets. That would be a great place to also kind of, place things. And then just learning, finding things like where you start learning if it's a new industry that you're pivoting into, or you're thinking, okay, the next pathway, I'm going in this way, joining association meetup groups, developing your network, building behind the scenes. I've seen some people start kind of developing a followership of just content sharing on platform, knowing that they're going to launch a product that they're going to need to leverage a group of audience that would already have built credibility, but they have to do it incrementally. You can't just show up and just like come buy my stuff. It has to be an organic, and then when it's organic, it's time that creates that outcome. And so if you have that runway, you can start building your audience. We're living in a digital world right now. If you want to run a restaurant, maybe you start cooking shows and people start seeing your stuff and they start getting interested in it. Or maybe you do a little bit of a phase 1 approach of like doing pop-ups, that gets your audience. So at the point where you're even about to start, I've seen some businesses take a different direction, even in financing, where they're able to get, like their projection is so solid that even like a regular financing institution's like, yes, we're ready to sign up because we can see all the dots. It adds up together. So this would be my recommendation.
Thank you. And Jason, anything else you want to add to that?
I think as you put pen to paper and begin actual like business planning, I'd say just an investor or a lender is one of your audience. I mean, that is an audience for that plan, but really it should be a working document for you to kind of understand your business and plan by, not just for that one request for financing, but as you go into the future, you should be planning each year, creating projections. And the other kind of recommendation I'd make is, especially if you did have a long runway as you plan to start up a business, if you're not comfortable looking at or reviewing financial statements, try to engage. There are classes at the SBDC. If you have a CPA that you're already engaging to help you with projections, try to understand those numbers, where they come from, because it will lend credibility as you speak with investors or a lender, but also understanding your books as you start up your business and get going. It's really hard to learn on the fly. It's much better to try to understand financial statements before you get into business.
That's helpful. I'm sure, I think there are different classes at both Sonoma State and the junior college that have just the basics of business finance and business administration that folks can enroll in. I think Sonoma State's got their Office of Extended Education, and then there's great certificate programs at the JC as well. So I definitely encourage folks to take a look at those. Also, for anyone attending today, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise their hand, and you can definitely speak to the crowd and answer or ask a question, or you can drop it in the Q&A feature on the chat. We definitely are here to help. And while we have these great experts available, we want to make sure your questions are answered. But again, if you think of something later, feel free to send me an email. I can definitely connect you to these folks as well. TT, why don't you talk a little bit about Working Solutions as a CDFI? I know in past webinars, we talked about the difference between the credit union a little bit and CDFI, but can you talk about how financing might be different if getting like a microloan and what the programs are that you offer for folks?
Yeah. So, and I just want to kind of clarify with CDFIs, they kind of come in different shapes and sizes, and offerings could vary. In our own particular organization, we've made a strategic decision to focus really on that early stage and marginalized groups. And that means like we're looking at that startup phase, much more early stage group, businesses less than 1 year. And then we're also in between 1 to 5 years kind of range, predominantly in our portfolio. And we're also looking at women, we're looking at people of color, we're looking at people that are more low income, because we want to bridge that gap. And so that's part of kind of like who we target. It's a big part of that as well. And also in the community lens, our approach of like how we interact with our borrowers are very much a warm hand holding support system across the board, where somebody comes in, but you also have a choice to go through a virtual kind of flow as well. But you can come in and actually have a business development officer that will walk you through and talk to you through the application, or you can choose not to talk to anybody and just say, but I just want to go do it by myself, you know. So you have that option, and then along the way we're giving you guidance and giving you like check-ins of just like, this is why we're doing this. Once you submit your application, somebody's going to call you. It's not just going to be a robotic thing. Somebody's going to call you and want to just talk to you about what they've received and what's coming up next. And if we have clarifications in an underwriting, you don't just get a robotic like denied or a robotic like, sorry, what's this question? Then you can't clarify. You can actually schedule a call and have those things like, you know, there are things that sometimes get missed and misunderstood that we always want to get clarity on. And so we take that approach of like really getting to support the borrowers and making sure that they know that they're heard. And that could mean it could mean that outcome doesn't always mean a full yes right away. It could be a yes completely, you get everything you're asking for. It could be a partial yes, you get some part of that. Or it could be a no with a recommendation of why and what we think you should do. And we have a lot of people that come back, or I see a lot of customers that even though they got a no before, they're like, now they come back in 6 months, they're like, feel ready, they feel empowered because they solved those things that we talked about, and they're stronger and they're much, and they do better. And so, and then once you come in, now you are, now after you get the capital, you're connected to a business consultant that's working with you that you can work with, and they develop an action plan with you. They go through steps of things that how changes are, you know, coming into the, you know, the changes that you anticipate and skills gap that you have. And we also have like a learning platform that people can go in and like get like how to videos and documents that they can use to improve on their own learning skills on different topics. When we also have, and then once they kind of go through that steps, then they also have navigational resources. We send them newsletters of like grant opportunities. You're looking for a good tax accountant, you can get like referral sources, things that you don't, that could get you in trouble out there because you don't know where to go find it. You can ask us for those kind of resources. So I think it's really a good, I call it like a little a space where you can feel safe and you can know that you're treated well and you can grow, like you get your training wheels to build your business. And then as we see that the business is doing better and if we can't serve them beyond our own lending capacity, then we want to make sure that we get them to the right person. You know, like Redwood Credit Union, we go up to $100,000 right now, but anything above that, we won't be able to serve that borrower. So we want to make sure that we can support them.
Yeah, and that's kind of one, I guess, follow-up question that I have is, you have businesses that say they've gone through Working Solutions to get that micro loan, so they could really get started and get their business, off and just see what kind of success they can get. And a few years later, they've grown a little bit. Can you talk a little bit, Jason, about the ability, I don't want to say reapply for funding, but just to apply for expansion funding or how that works, the need to pay off the past micro loan to get additional funding, or can you have them in tandem, or how would you kind of address that maybe?
Yeah, just kind of going through that that life cycle of that relationship, that loan. I think TD's making a very important point, and that is the level of technical assistance that Working Solutions can give a new business borrower is higher and more targeted than any financial institution could do. So we need partners like Working Solutions in the community to help us kind of serve that wide swath of business owners, not just existing business owners. So it is not uncommon for us. Redwood, we take a consultative approach with somebody who inquires about a business loan. If for some reason our existing products would not suffice or would not assist in helping them, and oftentimes those smaller startup loan type requests, we do engage with Working Solutions and refer a member there with the intent to help them as they emerge as a larger business. So to your point, yes, Working Solutions does a wonderful job with then connecting those borrowers back with their financial institution for conventional financing. And that could be any number of needs, like you're pointing out. It could be a consolidation of debt that they kind of accumulated as they started their business. It could also be just as they mature, the short-term working capital needs that they might have. That's probably best served with something like a line of credit where they can revolve the debt, use it as they need, pay it back as they can. Yeah, I mean, we very much depend on that relationship with Working Solutions to let us help that business owner as they grow.
Thank you. I'll see if anyone else has any questions that are in the attendance of the audience today. Please feel free to raise your hand or put them in the Q&A feature. One thing that I'll touch on too, just while we're at an interesting point, is our department is currently partnering with Working Solutions to administer a state-funded microbusiness grant. This is meant for businesses that were opened from 2019 and earlier, but this is just meant to get another layer of capital available to different communities that may have not had access to any of the different programs that have been available the last 2 years. And I'm talking like PPP, the California Small Business Program. This is a micro business grant that's available. We'll be launching it hopefully around early April and trying to just get folks just to help them, say your business has had a hard time the last few months. Hopefully this can just help bridge that gap, whether it's rent or just like covering the cost of supplies or just fixing equipment. So it's called the California Micro Business COVID-19 Relief Grant. We'll put some information in the chat for the name and the web link that's currently available, but hopefully that'll be coming online the first week of April as well. And I also want to put a plug into, we have some partners at the county, the Energy and Sustainability Division, and they are focused on helping businesses with like resilient infrastructure, maybe doing energy efficiency upgrades. So they can also partner with you to come out and do an assessment. So what can we do to make your building more energy efficient, or how we can support you with anything you want to do for infrastructure or hardening or just resiliency when it comes to wildfire season. So they can come out and do an assessment with you, and you can either move forward with projects with them as an organization, or you can take those projects and try to work with organizations like Redwood Credit Union and Working Solutions to figure out the financing to make that plan for your business. Because even though you want to plan to expand for consumers, you also want to plan for those capital investments too, and the infrastructure that you need to just maintain that business literal structure potentially over the next few years as well. Wonderful. Well, let's Jason or TD, if you don't have anything else to add, I don't think I have any other questions for today. We really just wanted to cover kind of the basics of finance and just some of the key things to look for when you're applying for loans or just preparing for that next step in your entrepreneurial vision. So to all the attendees, thank you so much for joining us today. And if we can add anything, please feel free by emails in the chat. I can answer any questions following this. We'll make sure that this court recording is posted on our website, and we'll send it out to everyone who attended. And if you have any ideas for other questions you'd want, or just different topics around financing your business in the future, we're happy to take a look at those and plan workshops around that content as well. So wonderful. Well, thank you, Jason and TT, so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. If we can answer any questions, folks, we will. Otherwise, have a great afternoon.